Testing, sound check. Yes. Hi everyone, my name is Mason and I work for Comet Backup here in New Zealand. Welcome along to another Technical Highlights webinar. I think this is episode 14 and during these webinars I talk for about half an hour on some Comet related topics. So there is a Comet technical webinar every month. I haven't done one in the last few months, however, because I was busy getting married, but I'm back at work now and ready to tell you all about the great new features in Comet. As well as my technical webinars every month, we also have a live discussion every Friday with my colleague Russell, where you can join in for office hours and ask any question you like, and I'll still be broadcasting live here every month, talking about new Comet features, best practice tips, IT industry news. On the webinar platform, you can sign up for notifications about when we go live, and I'm coming to you live today. It's 9 AM here in New Zealand. So if you're viewing this live on our webinar platform, you'll see on the right-hand side of the screen, there's a chat widget. Feel free to pop in any questions that you have. They'll be sent privately to me, and then at the end of my presentation, I'll have a few minutes to answer your questions. So anything that springs to mind, any clarifications, anything you want answered, just write it in. I'll do my best to answer it at the end. We are aiming for a half-hour presentation only, sometime at the end for questions. I know all our Comet partners, IT companies, MSP service providers, you're all very busy people. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to catch up on the latest Comet Backup news with me, so I won't waste any time. After the live presentation, this webinar will be available on our YouTube channel, so that's another way you can catch up. Can't take live questions on YouTube, so that's a special benefit for being able to make the time slot, but of course questions are welcome anytime in the support tickets. So I do these every month, but like I said, that schedule slipped back a bit, and it's actually been about 3 months since my last presentation. So back in February this year, I talked about lots of major new changes that we had made in Comet. I talked about the 21.2 Ganymede release, including organizations and how they're now available for anyone to use right from the setup wizard. I also talked about restore to original paths, so you can just roll back files easily when restoring data. I talked about silent install on macOS, the new features for silent install that pair with your RMM and MDM. I talked about the advanced client-side email settings to bring the full power of Comet's email reporting engine to the desktop app. And I also talked about custom HTTP bucket providers, which is a phenomenal way of automatically creating storage vaults against any custom storage platform, and more, including a lot of background information about reverse proxies, the new static locations for spam, things like that. But that was all 3 months ago. 3 months ago, back in February. If you're interested in learning anything more about these topics, the previous webinar is available to watch again here on this platform and also on our YouTube channel. So that was last time. As for this month's webinar, there's been lots of exciting new development recently that I can tell you about. There's been a lot to catch up on. So I hope you got a coffee and let's get stuck into it. Comet can now back up Microsoft Office 365. We held a live webinar about 4 weeks ago talking about the official release of this brand new feature, and we went through a live demo of setting it all up, authenticating against Office 365, backing up emails, deleting them in Outlook, and then restoring them from the backup right back to their original Office cloud location from within Comet. And not just emails, it also backs up contacts, calendars, OneDrive for Business, SharePoint, and files that you've got on Teams. So if you're interested in a full end-to-end walkthrough, I do recommend checking out that demo recording, which is now up on our YouTube channel. But to summarize, it's a new protected item type in Comet. Now, most of our existing protected item types back up data from the local PC. Some can back up over the network, such as MySQL and MongoDB. You can point it at a remote database. But this is our first really cloud-based protected item type. And so during the backup job, Comet will download data from Office 365, chunk it, encrypt it, and then send it to the storage vault. So just go through the normal steps to add it. You will be prompted to authenticate Comet against your Office 365 account. You can select individual mailboxes or SharePoint sites for backup. You can tell Comet to back up everything, then just run the backup on schedule. And when it comes time to restore, you can browse and restore individual emails or as files that you can drag into Outlook. You can right-click emails to preview them, or you can restore emails or entire mailboxes back to the cloud. Supports multiple tenants. If you are an MSP that is managing Office 365 subscriptions for your customers, you can just have multiple protected items for each Office 365 tenant from a single Comet user account. This feature is currently only available in our Voyager release channel. We're still a little bit early on in the launch phase. We're continuing to improve this feature. Obviously, we're happy in its quality enough to release it publicly. but obviously we're just trying to improve this throughout the Voyager cycle. And so if you're following our quarterly long-term stable releases, we expect it to be part of the next branch point in late August. So that's that. Microsoft Office 365 backup is now available in Comet. It does have a booster charge associated with it. I think you'll find it's very competitively priced in the market. It's a pretty major feature release for us. We've been working on it for a long time. Don't have much more to say about it. It's quite simple. You just add it and it works. Perhaps the only other thing that I want to address is Office 365. We're talking about the cloud email service from Microsoft. It's in the cloud already. Do I need to back it up? Well, yes, for lots of reasons. To start with, there's obviously business critical information in there, so it's absolutely valuable, important, deserves protecting. As you can see here, Microsoft themselves recommends using a third-party backup. It's really useful to be able to get back deleted items. I know there's archive folders and e-discovery. They're a bit heavyweight. It's hard to beat just browsing and restoring from the backup. As an MSP, it's another value add that you can sell. It's integrated fully in Comet with everything else. So it's using the same email reports, the same alerts, the same configuration, same API control, seamlessly integrated way that you can just help protect your customers, add value to your service. Let's move on. Something else. Comet backup on Linux. So we have always supported Comet backup running on Linux servers ever since the early days of Comet. What I'm talking about today is the continuing slow and steady trend towards using Linux on the desktop and laptop PCs. I'm talking about Ubuntu, Fedora, GNOME, KDE, Cinnamon, Linux Mint, that kind of thing. If you're one of those users, then this is the full Comet desktop app for Linux. It's a native binary. It sits in the system tray, allows you to set up your protected items, change your password, all the usual things, fully client-side without going into the web interface, just like Windows and Mac OS. We've always built Comet with the idea in mind that we wanted to support a lot of different platforms. We chose our technologies with a view towards being cross-platform. So we had designed for this ability since those early days, and it was just a matter of doing that last little work to get the Linux desktop app shipped and out the door. To be honest, using Linux on the desktop is still not super common. It's a common joke to say that the year of the Linux desktop is, just another 2 years away. So I'm not expecting this to fly off the shelves, but I think there is a slow and growing trend here. Linux obviously has a very high technical quality. We should be able to treat it equally with our other supported platforms. So this is a new feature in Comet to support Comet, the desktop app on Linux. It works with most distros and DEs, X or Wayland, Ubuntu 17, Fedora 25. So we're basically talking about any Linux distro from about the last 5 years or newer. That's kind of the cutoff we've chosen. Any desktop environment dependencies. So this is the real hard requirement. So most distros from about 2017, 5 years ago, will have these packages available. The last thing I want to say is every Linux distro is a bit different. So right now we just have generic steps for getting this up and running. And your distro has to have these dependencies. But in the future, we want to be a better citizen and have separate deb and RPM packages as well. Advanced filter. So Comet has always supported including files and then excluding by pattern or regular expression. What's new in Comet 2164 is the ability to include files by pattern or regex. So for instance, this allows you to back up all Word documents in C drive, or it allows you to back up the documents folder for all users inside the C drive users folder. So you use this feature from the desktop app, you click the plus drop down and then select advanced filter, which used to just be named exclude, but now it also has this advanced include functionality. So this is available in the desktop app and also in the Comet server web interface, of course. That's pretty much all there is to it. The only interesting thing here you might see is this top directory field. So this is the directory that will be searched for matches. If you're looking for all Word documents, it's going to be a bit faster if you just search for them inside C drive/users rather than all of C drive. So the top directory is sort of the part where that search takes place. We've made a few other small changes to increase the usability of this dialog. The dialog now warns you immediately when you enter invalid pattern syntax or invalid regular expression syntax. And there are examples for both pattern and regex features. On the subject of design changes, we've made a few other small changes to the design of the Comet Backup desktop app. First of all, when browsing files for restore, they're now shown in 2 panes instead of the old 1 pane. And we did this for a few reasons. One is that it allows you to sort the columns by modified date or by size, which is something that we heard a lot of requests for in our feature request system. Another one is that we can actually improve the performance by using a virtual rendering technique. And so if you have directories with say, over 100,000 files in it, you should find this dialog to be a lot more responsive and interactive when dealing with those very large directories. We also made the same change in the Comet Server web interface, just to make it consistent for when you are remotely controlling a new restore job. In the web interface, we're able to reuse some of our existing table grid components. So you'll see it looks very familiar in the web interface, including the ability to quick search and filter columns directly on the file pane. Another change is in the protected item dialog, we have split out authentication and items to be 2 separate tabs. This is because some of our protected item types, such as Microsoft SQL Server, MySQL, MongoDB, and the brand new Microsoft Office 365 protected item type, you really need to browse and pick your databases for backup. And that only works if you've got the credentials to access them properly. So by having 2 tabs here, we can encourage you to do the authentication step first and then go to pick the items. So there is also a new test connection button to make sure that you've entered everything properly. And that really streamlines the process, makes it a bit less error prone, also helps get rid of clutter on the tabs. The MongoDB items tab in particular was very busy with a lot of settings. So it's nice to break that out onto 2 pages. This change also affects the Comet Server web interface. Of course, we want to be consistent between the desktop and the web user interfaces. For other protected item types, such as file and folder, there's no authentication step, so you won't see this tab at all. One more design change is the search system. So perhaps you don't know this, but when you go to restore files in Comet, there is a search button that lets you search through your backed up data to find matching files. In the past, this let you search by name, file size, and that was about it. We had some requests for more advanced search queries, and we're pleased to announce that this dialog window now uses the full advanced search component. So that's the same search component you use for job report, job search queries, email report generation. So it supports all sorts of advanced features, Boolean filters and grouping, and or not. And we've added several more query types, including the ability to search by object type. In particular, this lets you find EFS encrypted files. We've heard in the past that often you'll get this warning in your backup job report that says, 3 files backed up with EFS encryption. It's a real problem. If a customer has turned on the Windows EFS feature to encrypt their files, and there's a chance that, when disaster strikes and you need to restore those files, the EFS keys won't come with it. And you won't be able to give them their data back. And so Comet just warns you about this problem. And what you're meant to do is read up about EFS, back up the keys, dismiss the warning, and just become aware of the problem and move on. That's all just how Comet works today, but it often raises additional questions like, why did the customer turn on EFS? What files have EFS on them? Where even are they? And now you can find that out from the search dialog here. So in Comet Server, there's a policy area that lets you control a lot of features of the application and turn various features on and off. You can set all of these settings on each individual user, or you can set them up as a group policy and then assign users to have that policy. One of the policy features we have is default protected items. These are protected items that are created when the device is registered. At the time the device is registered, these protected items are copied from the policy into the user's profile. And it's a great feature. Until now, there's been one downside, which is that the default protected items have been applied to all operating systems. So if you've got multiple operating systems in the same user account, so I'm imagining something like the staff all use Macs, but there's a Windows server. Then it means both Windows and Mac are going to get the same default protected item when you install the backup software. And it makes it a little bit difficult to do what we're doing in the screenshot here, backup documents and desktop on Windows and etc and home on Linux. because they'd both get the same protected item type, and half those paths don't exist on the other operating system. So there's a brand new feature here too, which is this apply to column in the screenshot to allow specifying the target operating system for each of these protected items. So you can create one protected item for Windows, one protected item for Linux, another one for Mac. It's now possible to do that within a single policy, which is great because if you have multiple operating systems in the same user account, this is always going to happen. So this just enables you to use this default protected item policy feature in more situations. So I'm very glad we have this feature. And more, just a few more things to cover quickly. Comet Server compressed job database. Comet Server stores all job logs in this Comet jobs DB3 file. Sometimes we will get questions from an MSP about this file being very large, multiple gigabytes. Why is it so large? What can I do as an MSP to make this file smaller? And the latest versions of Comet do add compression to the internal data format, which means these job databases should stay a bit smaller and should be a nice improvement for all Comet Server operators. If you go through, even after this change, if you're still experiencing very large job database files, it means your customers are uploading very large job logs, or you're keeping them for a very long time. So the things to check in that situation would be how long is your Comet Server configured to keep job logs for? And you can also find customers that have uploaded very large job reports from the job search page. You click custom job search, and then search by whether report size is larger than a megabyte or something. You'll find the outliers quite quickly. Suspend an organization. So I briefly mentioned the organizations feature in my intro, something I talked about in the previous webinar. But the organization feature in Comet Server basically lets you make an isolated zone inside your Comet Server. So the organization has its own admin accounts, its own customers, and so you can use this for resellers, for grouping, multi-tenancy. It's just a really flexible feature. What's new in Comet is the ability to suspend an organization. So this is a single toggle in the organization setting dialog that's inside the setup wizard, inside the Comet Server web interface. And if you suspend an organization, then it will prevent their admins from logging in, and it will make all the customers of that organization act as suspended as well. So if you're using this feature, maybe you're reselling access to your Comet Server and someone doesn't pay their bill, then you've got this new feature available to you. Self-backup status. So Comet now shows the status of self-backup jobs on the About This Server page in the Comet Server web interface. Self-backup jobs are a really important feature of Comet Server. If you experience a problem with Comet Server itself and need to restore its configuration from a backup, we've got a real chicken and egg problem because Comet Backup relies on having a Comet Server available. So you couldn't use Comet Backup to back up Comet Server. So Comet Server has this self-backup feature, which I hope everyone is using. It lets you take a simple configuration backup and store it somewhere safe. It's just using zip files and zip password encryption so that you don't need any special tools or software to get your Comet Server back up and running again. The thing about self-backup, though, is that it's not a real backup job. It doesn't have a job log. It doesn't have a status. It's not done by any customer, and so it's not part of any customer's profile. So it was a little bit hard to see what was going on with the self-backup jobs. They're critically important, but you had quite limited visibility into how they were working. So what's new in Comet is the ability to quickly see the status here of the most recent job, or if there's one currently running, it will show you the progress of a currently running job right here on the About This Server page. And if you're using the API, it's part of the admin meta version API. So it should just make it a bit easier to see what's going on with self-backup, make it a bit less of an outlier. Custom macOS menu bar images. So Comet now lets you set a custom branding image for the menu bar icon for Comet Backup on macOS. Setting a custom icon for Comet is a pretty standard part of rebranding the Comet Backup application. You go to the Comet setup wizard, upload your logo in PNG format, or you can use the platform-specific ICO, ICNS formats, and that's just how it appears to the customer, all well and good. One interesting thing about macOS is it supports dark mode. To make this work, all icons in the system tray up here, so this is the top right corner of a macOS device, All icons in the system tray are generally monochrome. They're just a black and white silhouette, an outline of the real logo, and that way macOS knows how to invert the colors when you switch between light mode and dark mode. And Comet only had one icon field for macOS, and we would do our best to, we would use the icon that you supplied for the main application icon. And then from that main application icon, we would automatically generate an outline mask for the system tray. System tray, that's Windows, it's called a menu bar on Mac. And by and large, we did a good job of generating this mask silhouette automatically, but we heard feedback for some MSPs, their logo didn't really suit this automatic conversion. Sometimes the design of their logo meant that it could come out as a white square, or it could come out as completely blank. And if you want to change your image to make it work properly with the silhouette in the menu bar, maybe it wouldn't look good in the main application. So that was a bit of a struggle, because if you're in that situation, you really do need a separate design for the menu bar. So that's what this feature does. In the Comet server branding settings, you can now override the icon that's used for the menu bar mask. It's optional. If you don't have to do it, Comet will keep doing what it currently does, but if you're seeing strange behavior with the menu bar on macOS, then this is the feature you need to check out. Performance improvements, just a big pile of text here. Mostly minor performance improvements, but they do add up. Comet is that rare software that gets faster in new versions instead of slower. We do deliberately spend time optimizing the software to improve the performance. Obviously the core backup operation as well, but also day-to-day using of the desktop app and the Comet server web interface. So this is just a quick preview of some of the little optimizations we've done over the last cycle, and it's pretty typical of the kind of improvements we do every cycle. New cloud storage providers. So as a backup service provider, you have the choice of any storage platform you want, whether that's local hard drives, your own storage, or FTP, SFTP, or in the cloud, Azure, Amazon AWS, S3 compatible through to Backblaze, Wasabi, and hundreds of other S3 compatible and SFTP compatible storage providers that are out there. The storage platform that you choose to run your business on makes a huge difference in your offering. Obviously, it directly affects your costs, but you also need to consider performance. You really want to keep the customer to storage end-to-end latency as low as possible to get the best backup and restore performance. You may also want to consider national data sovereignty laws about keeping data in the same country, which is particularly important in some industries. One of the interesting things about Comet is that all data is client-side encrypted before it touches the storage. So you do have a bit of leeway to use, shall I say, more exotic storage providers, as long as you're convinced about the uptime, reliability, performance. Maybe you don't have to worry about exactly which country it's in, because all the data is encrypted before upload. And so we do have this page in our documentation that lists a few well-known possibilities. Gives you quick access to their pricing, location, and connection settings. And we mentioned some of these providers on our main integrations page too. But it's not exhaustive. There are thousands more storage providers in every country in the world. You're absolutely free to choose anyone you want as your storage provider. And so at Comet, we're always on the lookout for new storage providers that we can recommend to our partners. And we're also interested in new features and regions from our existing storage providers. And we're happy to list them on our website with just one condition, which is that at Comet, we are 100% focused on service providers. We just make the software. We don't operate an end user backup service. We don't compete with you. We're not going to promote one MSP over another. And so we've got one rule about this list, which is to only list storage providers, not backup providers. So these storage providers don't compete with you. They're just tools that you get to use with Comet to build a high value backup service on top of. So I do just want to give a quick heads up to some other new cloud storage providers we've been impressed with recently. Just quickly going through this list, Storadera, a new cloud storage provider in Estonia with excellent ping to Europe and Central Asia. Firebase, a virtual cloud storage provider over several backends, and they don't really have a single data center because all the data is geo-distributed using a blockchain. And our old friends Wasabi, their Tokyo region is now out of beta and is now publicly available. So that's great news for all of our MSPs in APAC. Last few things I want to say. Almost all of the features we've added recently came from customer requests. Your requests, we really appreciate all the feedback. We listen to our MSPs. If you're crying out for a new feature, then we definitely want to add it. So please check out our feature request system on the Comet Backup website. You can create a new request or upvote an existing one. We look at the system often, and all the votes and comments do help guide our development priorities. And it's great to see that when you raise a feature request, other people chime in and say they want this too, and then you'll get a notification immediately when the feature is ready or if there's any news about it. And when I checked it today, we're up to 99 completed requests. So we really do get around to developing them, maybe not straight away, but we are making seriously good progress through this list. So if you've got some new ideas for Comet that could make your life easier, come on and add some new feature requests and join in the discussion with the other MSPs about what you need. The other thing I want to reiterate is Comet Server's great API support. The Comet Server web interface itself is built using the public API. So anything you can do by clicking around in the web interface, you can do in an automated way by developing an API integration, whether that's maybe making a new sign-up form for your website or building custom reporting tools or scripts to integrate with your RMM. Our API is easy to use if you're a software developer, or if you can hire a software developer, then it's really easy to get started. The documentation is comprehensive, it's up to date, all the latest Comet features, there's a lot of sample code, SDKs to work with. We even have YouTube tutorials. So there's nothing stopping you. Go out and enhance your Comet Server experience, whether it's customer facing or some back-end processing for your sort of internal benefit. Anything is possible. That's all I have for today. Does anyone have any questions? Just to recap, I talked about the brand new Microsoft Office 365 backup capabilities, which is our latest new protected item type. I also talked about how you can now run Comet Backup, the GUI on Linux, the advanced filter to back up all docx files in C drive, design improvements for the two-pane restore in the search system, the new policy settings for selecting a specific operating system for default protected items. I talked about compressed job DBs, self-backup statuses, macOS menu bar, Storadera, Firebase, and Wasabi Japan. So I can see a few questions in. Congratulations on your marriage. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. A question here, will a recover CD ever be available? So this question is about Comet's USB recovery media feature. When you do a disk image backup and you want to restore over the top of your C drive, you shouldn't restore over the top of C drive while Windows is running because you'll blue screen immediately. So we have this USB boot feature to create a USB drive. Someone's asking, can we make a CD version of that available? I think this is a pretty popular request. It's actually come up a couple of times in the support tickets recently. In particular, the ability to make an ISO file, I think, is what we want to focus on next. You should hear more about that from us very soon, actually. Another question, is it possible to create read-only API users? Unfortunately, not today, no. That's something that does come up. And I think we'd definitely like to address that soon. I guess the idea behind the API, though, is that you would create a separate API user with a long, strong generated password, and then only use that within your integration. And hopefully that's secure enough in the meantime. Maybe no more questions. That might be all the questions we have time for today, but we still want to hear from you. If you have any questions at all, we're always happy to help out. One more question. Is the client Comet password stored encrypted? Yes, it is. So the client Comet password is stored in a few different ways. Comet is obviously a client server system. The server only needs to validate the password, and therefore it can store just a hash of the password. So that's bcrypt hash. Client side, the Comet client does need to know the password or something password equivalent in order to automatically log in to the Comet server. So the client does need to store the password in a reversible encrypted format, but it is encrypted. Yeah, it's using AES-256. And recently we moved it from a file into the registry, but it is definitely stored encrypted, yes. We are a little short for time. So that is all the questions we have time for today. We still want to hear from you if you have any questions. We've recently invested further in growing our support team. We're more than happy to hear your questions by ticket through the usual ticket system at account.cometbackup.com, or you can email us, hello@cometbackup.com, or we do actually support phone calls. And now our company is based in New Zealand. We do have international support teams for round-the-clock level 1 tech support. But if you want a sales call or if you want any more advanced technical support, we need to figure out a good time that suits us, both in New Zealand and in your country. So it's winter in the Southern Hemisphere, and our winter time zone is UTC plus 12. So if you go to the Comet website, at the bottom of the page, you click Contact Us, and then there's an option to schedule a phone call with the time zone widget showing our available times. We're more than happy to jump on a call. Often that's a very quick way of clearing the air, getting answers to any questions you might have. So that's all from me. Please check out the latest version of Comet, upgrade your servers. Software upgrades are always free. We keep all our old versions available, so that's always an option if you need it for anything. Hope you're all keeping well and safe. And the webinar series is back on its regular monthly schedule. So I'll see you all in another month's time. Cheers.